Hello and welcome to Mind of the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue. In Mind of the Forest, we talk about forestry and how important managed forests are to the environment and the benefits they offer to wildlife and for water protection. Those benefits are why the LFA promotes keeping Louisiana's almost 15 million acres of forests as forests. The forest products industry, including forest landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers such as lumber, paper, and pellet mills, plays an important role in the conservation and management of forests for the important renewable natural resource it is. This episode of Mind of the Forest is sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office or find them online at firstsouthland.com. This is episode 66 of Mind of the Forest. What do consulting foresters have to say about current market conditions for forests in Louisiana? Our guest is a forester for Mudd & Holland Consulting Foresters out of Shreveport, Tim Holland. He's a past president of the LFA and a contributor to the LFA's magazine, Forests and People. He's one of several foresters that writes a Forestry 101 article for us. In our last article that he wrote, he talks about how the markets are changing how landowners are managing their forests. Here's Tim. We have with us today Tim Holland. Tim is a past president for the Louisiana Forestry Association. He's also a consulting forester for, 46 years. 46 years. Tech grad, because I know by your tech paraphernalia you wear every once in a while, right?
Yes.
Okay. He is a consulting forester. His company is Mudd & Holland. That was a venture with your father-in-law, I think it was.
Started out with my father-in-law, Lee Mudd.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about Tim Holland. Where are you from and how'd you get to where you are now?
Oh my gosh. I'm from East Texas, Carthage, Texas. I was born over there in 1957. Ended up graduated high school in 76 and came over to Centenary College in Shreveport. Actually got a degree in religion. And really? That's where I met my wife-to-be, Susan, and we started dating. And when I graduated, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And Mr. Mudd said I could come to work with them if I wanted to, and that was in the summer of 1980. Mm-hmm. And so I started that summer and loved it. And he said, well, if this is something you want to do, he said, you probably need to go get your forestry degree. So I started at Louisiana Tech that fall, and 2.5 years, graduated with Tech with a forestry degree. So
awesome. Okay. Ever since then, you've been out in the woods running back and forth?
Since May of 1980, I've been in the woods.
Tim has done a great deal for us at the Louisiana Forestry Association. Really appreciate it, especially as past president. Lots of duties, taking care of a lot of stuff for us. We appreciate that. But one of the things that I have roped him into is a feature called Forestry 101, which is in our magazine, Forests and People. And that is a feature that really talks about simple things, sometimes introductory things, as it implies Forestry 101, especially for the small landowner. Folks who want to know more about their land and what they could do and encourage them to keep their forest as forests. So that's the topic that we're going to talk about today. The latest Forestry 101 column, that article that Tim has contributed to Forests and People, talks about markets and just a situation that small landowners have right now. So let's kind of get into that. What are some of the effects of the market, and how's that changing for small landowners?
Well, over the last several years, we've seen a lot of decline in pulpwood markets. And I think last year, Brooks Mendel with For Risk Consulting spoke to the members at the LFA convention and mentioned how pulpwood markets prices were declining because of the lack of demand for all kinds of paper. And I tell my clients, I said, you realize that pine is used primarily for brown paper, liner board to make cardboard boxes. And the mills that we have for pine, that's what they make. Yeah. There's consumer packaging. Some mills make products for items that you would see in a grocery store when you walk down the aisles, Jell-O boxes, cracker cartons, Coke containers. That's all used with pine and a little bit of hardwood mixed in. I'm not a mill person. I don't know how they make paper, but
we don't need to know the formula.
They use a lot of that in, they use our pine trees, and that's what they use them for. Well, when that decline, that don't need as much wood coming in, then that affects all of our small private landowners. When I speak to some groups, sometimes I will start off by just asking them, everyone in the room, to raise their hand. I said, how many of you take a newspaper every morning? And if there's 50 people there, there'll be one or two hands go up. And I said, okay, used to be everybody in the room hand went up. Yeah. And we don't do newspapers anymore. It's all electronic. Yeah. So that's true.
Some folks still do. I mean, the older crowd, I think, will still
I'll agree.
Get the newspaper. But I can't say that I've seen someone under, we used to say 40, probably under 50 now, who will grab a newspaper. So, that certainly changes the market there. And I don't think there's been newsprint made in Louisiana in a very long time.
A long time. Yeah. Yes.
And we've seen last year with the closure of the paper mill in Campty and the effects of that. I think they look at, I think most folks look at the sad loss of jobs and certainly the loss of the tax base for those communities.
Correct.
But I'm not quite sure if they extrapolate that in their mind to understand, well, okay, that means fewer loggers needed for that. That means that particular type of wood, the younger trees.
It created some issues.
Yeah.
Some supply issues that were, I don't know when if we will get over them. That was a huge impact. And that comes back as a result, I guess, of the lack of demand. We've got, and I'm assuming that most consultants or foresters that work with small private landowners are running into issues where we have clients that planted their tracts, they either clear cut them or had open fields, and they planted them to pine trees 15, 18, 20 years ago with the idea that normally we would do a first thinning for pulpwood at somewhere around age 14, 15, 16, something like that. Most everybody does. And, they had the idea, they planted these trees and they're looking to the future, and they say, okay, well, we'll get ready to thin these trees. And, I can use that to fund college for the kids, a nursing home, anything, work around the house, something. And we have reached that point where we're at that 15, 16, 17-year-old trees that need to be thinned, and we can't get them thin. The mills, the demand is not there. We don't have the loggers. They don't have the capacity to haul it to the mills because the mills have them on quotas and they can't move the wood. So there's a tremendous amount of wood that's standing in the woods out there that needs to be thinned, and we can't get it thinned right now.
From the mill's point of view, too, I mean, they are at the mercy of the markets as well. So
they are definitely at the. We've had some people from International Paper Mill at Mansfield come and speak to a couple of our Society of American Foresters groups, and they would tell us that they make brown paper. They make rolls of paper to use for cardboard boxes, and that they have warehouses full of giant rolls of brown paper that they cannot move out. And so as a result, they don't need as much wood coming into the mill.
Right.
What are they going to do with it? Stack rolls on top of rolls. So that creates, it's markets all the way around.
Right.
We look at the mills that use pulpwood. It could be OSB or chips or brown paper.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't get it into them because they don't need the wood coming in. Well, they can't move their product out because they don't have a place to go with their product.
Yeah,
and it just trickles down to the landowner.
Well, we'll look at some hopeful things. I guess if the consumers purchase more things online, you have the more use of cardboard and things of that nature. But at present, not a whole lot of folks are buying as much as they used to, I guess.
Well, from what they told us back in 2020, and everybody remembers what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
We had the shutdown, and everybody was at home, and so you ordered online.
Yeah.
And Amazon was a big producer of items that were shipped to your house.
Yeah.
And Amazon is from what I understand, is one of the biggest contracts with several of the paper mills. And during 2020, Amazon was busy.
Yeah.
UPS trucks were coming to the neighborhood, dropping boxes off like crazy. Well, everybody went back to work, and the last several years, they have either not ordered quite as much, so the demand for cardboard boxes has fallen off, and the mills tell us that they don't need as much wood coming in because they don't have the demand for the cardboard boxes.
Right.
And
when folks actually have a chance to go to stores and like they used to,
Yeah. I told him, I said, I kind of find that hard to believe because, not to get myself in trouble with my wife, but it seems like every day when I come home, there's an Amazon box at my front door. So somebody's still using Amazon.
She's doing all she can to help.
I
the
know
markets,
she's
God bless
great.
her.
She's great.
But that trickles down, and talk a little bit about, because it is an important cycle. In order for forests to remain healthy, there has to be that cycle of harvest, right?
It is. And as a result of some of this, the last several years, a lot of people in the industry, foresters and all, silviculturists, are looking at, we don't need to plant as many trees per acre, seedlings, when we do a clear cut and we do the replanting. And you can open up the spacing and you can go wider. And I talked to my client sometime, and I asked him, I said, have you ever heard of the term bull pine or wolf pine or field pine? And they go, yeah, I've heard of that. And I said, you know what it is? And they said, not really. I said, well, it's a pine tree that is out in an open field, an open area, and there's no competition around it. And so that tree will grow up. But I said, it holds all those lower limbs, and it's just a woolly booger for the best term. And it's just full of limbs. It'll get a big diameter, but it's got limbs from 6 or 7 feet off the ground all the way up that tree. And big, rough limbs. Not worth anything. Can't do anything with it. When we plant our pine trees in a plantation, we plant them on a spacing for years and years. Most everybody planted on an 8x8 spacing. That's 8 feet by 8 feet on a grid. But you had the trees kind of close enough together that they would force each other to grow up. They're growing towards sunlight. And as they would get older, the crowns would close over. You would shade out those lower limbs, and they die and they fall off. And so you end up with a straight, clean, hopefully tall tree.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do the first thinning of pulpwood at somewhere around age 14, 15, 16, you open that stand up, you take some trees out, you leave the better trees to keep growing. Well, they've already pruned. They don't have those lower limbs. And so you're putting growth on that tree all the way up the bowl. And you're adding clean wood to that tree. If you plant wider spacing, it's still a pine tree, and the genetics are critical. We want to plant better genetics out there, and we have some companies that produce very good seedlings, but they're still a pine tree.
Yeah.
They don't have the genetics that will make a tree grow without limbs, and they don't have them where they'll make a square tree where there's no waste, and when you cut it up, you know, board, it's already square, so it's a round tree with limbs. Yeah. And if you go out too wide on your spacing, they're still going to hold some of those limbs, and that's going to give you a defect in the tree, quality of the tree. Yeah. So somewhere there's a spacing that would be optimum. And at meetings, you know, you go and talk to groups and say, man, you know, what are y'all trying to do? You know, how wide are you going on your spacing? Yeah. And everybody is trying to share information, because the idea was, and I don't know if it's really possible, but some of the thought was, well, I'll plant on a wider spacing and I'll just grow my trees through the pulpwood stage and into a chip and saw log tree, which is a big pulpwood or small saw log, and I'll just skip that pulpwood stage. And I don't think that's really possible to do that. You're still going to have some pulpwood in there, and you're going to need a market to move that wood.
So that's a change in how landowners are managing their forests.
Correct.
Does that delay getting the wood to the mills, and in that delay lets the mill kind of catch up with the sale of its product, so that when the wood is ready to go to a mill, that it would be
but when we're doing that, it would delay it. The biggest issue with it is we're doing the same thing that people did years ago. We're planting on this wider spacing, knowing that we're not going to do any cutting in these trees for 14, 15, 16 years down the road. And we don't know we're hopeful that we're going to have some markets out there.
Right.
I think we will. We just don't know what kind of markets. Is it going to be traditional paper mills? Is it going to be biofuel mills? You know, what's going to be out there? But we're planting today, thinking about or planning for what those markets will be when we get there. And we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going out there.
Yeah, I don't think people expected the pellets to be such a market in Louisiana, yet Drax has come in and they've been able to include some of the pulpwood in their processing, and really has been a benefit to the pulpwood market in Louisiana.
Oh, it has. In the areas close to that mill, it's been tremendous for them. I'll tell you a story. I had, this was years ago, back in the early 80s, we were planting some trees. I had two clients, and they were both elderly. And there was one little old lady, and we were planting pine trees. And she asked me, she said, Tim, she said, when will we get to the first cutting, you know, on these trees? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember her name, but I said, well, it's going to be about 14 to 15 years before we get to able to cut it. And she just, you know, she dropped her head and she just said, she said, oh my gosh, you know, that long? And I said, well, it's trees, you know, it's not cotton, corn. And so this other landowner was Mr. Preston, and I'll never forget him. He was probably in his mid to late 80s, had a pair of coveralls, and he was down close to Logansport, Louisiana. Go down there and go up to the house and knock on the door, and his wife came to the door. And I said, Mr. Preston around? She said, oh, he's out there in the barn working on his tractor or something. So I walk out there, and there he is with his overalls. I told him, I said, Mr. Preston, we're here to plant your trees. And he said, okay, good deal, good deal. And he goes, same question. When we going to get the first cutting on these trees? And I said, well, Mr. Preston, I said, it's trees. I said, it's going to be about 15 years plus or minus, before we can get anything out of them. And he went, well, good. I probably need the money then. And I said, there was two opposite perspectives on looking at the future and trees,
That's
so
optimism.
That's kind of where we are. That was optimism. Yeah. That was very much optimism. Yes.
Well, things have changed a great deal, especially I would think in the last 46 years that you've been a consulting forester. Markets have changed, workflows
Markets have changed. The way we get wood, the way we get wood to the mill has changed.
Yeah.
When I started, it's kind of odd to say it. Just about all logging was done with a chainsaw, and the pulpwood was hauled on shortwood trucks. They cut it with the pulpwood with a McCullough bow saw, and they would cut the bolts up out in the woods, and a lot of them loaded the trucks by hand, and some of them would have a mechanism on top of it. They called it a big stick loader. And it had a little cable that would run out there and grab the little cuts of wood and drag it up to the truck, and it would load it on the truck. Mm-hmm. A little shortwood bobtail pulpwood truck would haul maybe 2 cords, 3 cords, something like that at the most, and they were loaded.
Put that in perspective for those who need a visual on that. How much wood is that?
Not very much.
Well, much. In compared to the trailers that we see on the road today,
that would be 2 cords.
Like half of the truck now, or
no,
not even that much.
It would be maybe 4 or 5 tons on a truck.
Wow!
Today, a log truck holds, a standard load is like 27 tons. Plus or minus 26 to 28, something like that.
Wow.
So they move a lot. And I remember when I remember seeing the first, now this was probably in the early 80s, the first machine that would cut a pulpwood tree was they called it a pincher shear, and it was hydraulic, and it was like a giant pair of scissors, and it would just snip the trees off at the stump. And then they just kind of discovered that the process of those hydraulic shears pinching through the tree would destroy the wood fibers in that lower 2 or 3 feet of the tree. And so those weren't good. Then they went to oh my gosh, they had some machines that had there was one called the Bell. It was a 3-wheel machine that had a chainsaw, a chain bar on the front of it that would come out and snip the trees off. Had a feller buncher on the front of it that could lay them over. And then they finally graduated to this kind of what we have today is this hydraulic saw head with a giant spinning wheel with teeth on it that cuts them off. It's been a lot of changes over the years.
Amazing and scary at the same time.
Amazing and scary.
Yeah.
And part of the problem was that our loggers back in the day could move a good bit of wood. Mm-hmm. But today a crew has maybe 4 people on it. Yeah. With the machines, and they can move 5 or 6 times as much wood in a day or a week as the old loggers could. Yeah. So our production is high, and a lot of the loggers today work on production because that's how they make their money. The more they can produce and get to the mill, they make more money. Right. And when we're on quotas and they can't haul it in, they don't need it. Then it hurts the loggers because they need to move a certain amount of wood to cover all their bills and expenses that they have out there, and
that
they
impacts
can't
our
do
rural
that.
economy in Louisiana for sure.
It hurts. It hurts. And with the pulp markets, we have a phenomenon today, I'll call it that, of what we call the wood supply agreements.
Okay,
some people
explain
call
that
them
what is that?
fiber supply agreements,
Fiber,
but
okay.
it's
Same thing?
It's same thing, and different terms. Most of them call it wood supply agreements, WSAs. If you remember back in the 70s and 80s, all of the mills owned their own land.
Okay.
International Paper owned hundreds of thousands. You had Crown Zellerback. You had Louisiana Pacific, Georgia Pacific. Oh my gosh, there were some over in East Texas. They were huge land owners to give them a supply of wood for their mill. Plus, they would buy on the outside market from small landowners, and everything was good. Well, my understanding is that in the 80s, there were some federal tax structure changes, and the mills were allowed, you could, when you cut timber, you would get capital gains on the proceeds. Somehow or another, and I'm not an accountant, I don't understand all of that, but in the 80s, there were some changes to the tax structure, tax laws, and the mills, when they would sell the wood, could not claim the capital gains the way they had been doing it. And so it was costing them, and they were losing a lot of money on that. And so they ended up starting to sell all their lands. And I mean, hundreds of thousands of acres. Well, when they sold the land, generally it was groups of investors that would buy these large blocks of land. They still needed the wood coming to their mill.
Right.
So somewhere along the way, somebody came up with these wood supply agreements. Now, I don't work for a mill, never worked in a mill. I don't understand all the intricacies of how they are formulated, but basically it says that whoever buys the land under this agreement will sell so many tons each quarter to the mill, and the mill will buy so many tons each quarter. So it's great for the mill. It gives them a guaranteed supply of wood coming in. And these large landowners, these wood agreements go with the land. So if one landowner, they're usually REITs and TIMOs, real estate investment trusts and timber investment management organizations. If they sell a block of land, and when they sell a block, it's like 50,000 acres or something. Yeah. But if they sell a block of land to somebody else, then that wood supply agreement goes with that land. They call it committed wood. So it would transfer to the new owner, whoever owned it. So they've got a, I don't know how they police them. I don't know who the overseer of the agreements are, but they have to keep the fulfillment of these agreements.
Right.
And I'm not exactly sure how much each mill gets off of the wood supply agreements, but it's fairly high. It could be 70%, could be 80%, could be 85%. I'm not exactly sure. So that but they have to buy their wood. So that gives them wood coming into the mill. Right. And so that would leave, 15, 20, 25% to come off of the small private landowners. And a lot of people, we refer to the wood coming off of private landowners as gate wood. And when the markets aren't strong, there's a decline in the need for wood coming in. They still have to buy the wood supply agreement wood.
They're obligated to do that.
They're obligated to buy it. Now, there may be some, if they put everybody on quota, some of these wood supply groups, they have to go on a quota too, but I don't think it's as rigid as a quota as what they put on the small private landowners. And so I've got loggers up in the north part of the state that I talk to that if they are primarily hauling pulpwood, they could probably move 70, 80, 100 loads a week. When they go on quota, they're only allowed 20, 25, 30 loads a week, few loads a day. And they have fixed costs. They've got their logging costs, equipment, the notes on the equipment, insurance on the equipment, fuel, maintenance, oil, paying the
salaries,
workers. They've got a fixed cost in how much it costs them to move 1 ton of wood. Mm-hmm. And so they usually, when you sell your wood to somebody, they'll pay you so much per ton for the wood. And there's, people have to, they ask me a lot of times, they say, well, how much is wood? Well, there's 2 prices for wood. Mm-hmm. And one is called the delivered price. And that's the price that is paid to the contractor who delivers the wood to the mill. And then there's the stumpage price. That's the price that the landowner gets. Okay. And the difference in the delivered price, the logger has his fixed cost for transporting, getting the wood. That we call it cut, bank, and haul. It's cutting the trees in the woods, skidding them, dragging them up to the set, processing the trees, putting them on a truck, and then hauling to the mill. Mm-hmm. And you take the delivered cost or delivered price and subtract the logging cost, and basically that's the stumpage, what it gets. And I've told some clients at some meetings, I said, when the pulpwood markets are anywhere from the delivered price, when you deliver the wood to the mill, is anywhere from, I know one mill just dropped their price in East Texas to $26 a ton. Say anywhere from $26 to $28 a ton delivered for pine pulpwood. You've got the logging costs out there that if it's a minimum haul, you've got their logging costs are going to run somewhere around $15 to $18 a ton just for their logging. Mm-hmm. Then the trucking on top of that is going to run $6 or $7. Could be more, depending on how far you got to haul it. But if your logging costs are $18 and it costs you $7 to get it there, that's $25 a ton. So if I'm hauling it to a mill that's paying $26, well, take the logging costs out, that's $1 for the landowner. Yeah. And generally, whoever the loggers, you have a contractor, you have to have a contract with the mill to be able to enter that mill. Mm-hmm. They have to be a master logger. They have to complete the requirements to be a master logger to haul in there. And a lot of times the company or whoever owns the contract to haul into the mill will charge $1 or so, $2 a ton to use his contract to haul into the mill. So if they're paying $26 and it costs you $25 to get it there, and he's charging $1 for a ton to use the contract, that leaves $0. So it's some tough times. Yeah. And the loggers, when they're on quota, they can't haul every day. Tuesday or Wednesday, they're finished for the week. They've hauled their quota. They've met their obligation. Yeah. And so they've got 2 or 3 days that they don't have anything to do. And loggers generally only get paid when they're hauling.
And they're working, yeah.
And I was my truck runs on diesel, and I'd say 3 weeks ago, I was paying maybe $2.90 a gallon for diesel. And I was driving down here this morning, right along I-49, and I'm seeing all the truck stops, and it's $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
And you tell me that doesn't hurt the loggers? That's serious. That's serious.
The market affects everything. I mean, the mills certainly are bound by their operating costs and what they can pay for the materials, and it's really a difficult time all the way around for the industry, it seems like.
It is, and one of the big issues that happened with the closure of the Campty mill was, and I'd say the biggest was the personal loss for the individuals that worked in the mill, and then the economic loss to the surrounding area of Natchitoches, Campty down there. And the other issue was when they closed the mill, they had a huge amount of this wood supply agreement wood, committed wood, that was committed to go to the Campty mill, that when they closed that mill, that wood had to go somewhere else. However they did it, it was shifted, it was redirected to go to several different mills.
Yeah.
And those mills were already full, I guess, for better lack of definition. They were full, and all this, it was hundreds of thousands of tons of wood that had to be redirected. So when that wood got shifted to these other mills, they were already full. Well, then that's less that they need coming in from
the smaller landowners.
From the small landowners.
Yeah, those obligations to the mills, they do not go away.
They've got to be full, they've got to be met.
Yeah. Tough market. So what about the dimensional lumber part? We're kind of hoping on that part that with spring coming, traditionally you see a little bit uptick in construction, and that moves more of that wood, but it seems like the economy isn't moving as quickly or certainly as robustly
in
as
some areas it's not. And I saw a report at the Architects Forestry Forum the other day with Valerie West that the nationwide single home starts was like 1.3 million, and to be a decent market for home starts, it needs to be like 1.5 to 1.6 million, and nationwide.
Yeah. And
we are way below that. And so even our dimension lumber mills, if they're cutting, 2x4s, any 2x6s, 2x8s, I don't know how big they go up to these days, but their warehouses are holding a lot of wood. Yeah. They can't move the lumber out. And so at the same time, they don't need quite as much coming in because, they're getting full.
Yeah.
And it's got to go somewhere. It's just, and we've got two new mills up in the north part of the state. One there at Ada Taylor and one up at Plain Dealing. And every time they cut lumber, they also have a residual product in chips. And those chips have to go somewhere. They can't, I guess they could store them on site, but they're gonna have a mountain of chips or dig a big hole and put them in. So
you can dig a hole big enough.
They generally send those chips to the pulp mills to make paper. And so,
or pellets.
I don't know what the or pellets or whatever the correlation is. Every load of chips, that's at least a load of round pulpwood that they don't need. Yeah. So that you add that into the mix, and it creates a little bit more of a headache.
Seems to all start at the consumer's point. Whether you're buying things that are shipped to your home, whether you are building structures. I think I remember correctly too, especially during COVID, the lumber industry had an uptick, mostly because with folks staying home, they went ahead and bought some wood to make improvements around the house,
making
or
improvements,
add a shed or something like that.
Yeah, I heard several people speaking at meetings, and that was one of everybody was staying home, and so they would run down to their local lumber yard and buy 5, 6, 2, 10, 2x4s, 2x8s to work on something at the house. Well, they were doing that all over the country. They were using a lot of wood and a lot of lumber. And we go back to work, and they kind of quit some of those projects. And so it slowed down. The interest rates, I don't know how low they would have to go to get a big jump in the housing market, but the housing market's not happening right now.
Yeah.
And at least in certain areas. And we need it to be.
A lot of that too has resulted because of the interest rates that have gained in the previous 4 years. Correct. A lot of inflation.
If I'm investing money somewhere, increase. I want a high interest rate so I can make more. Yeah. But if I'm trying to build a house, I want a low interest rate. So
yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Got to reach that happy medium somewhere.
Yeah. So all this is changing the way the landowner looks at their land. In your opinion, do you think that runs the risk of losing forest land in Louisiana?
I'm afraid it is. When I'm on the way down here to Alexandria this morning, driving down I-49, you leave Shreveport and all the way down here on both sides of the highway, there's a lot of pine trees.
Yeah.
A lot of pine trees. We work Northwest Louisiana, East Texas, South Arkansas. And I don't care which way you leave Shreveport and you drive down whatever highway it is, you see a lot of pine trees. So there is a huge, huge wood basket that we have. And landowners are growing trees to make products to sell, to fund the family, support the family, kids going to college, whatever. Now they're having a hard time selling those trees for the traditional products that we look at. Mm-hmm. And I have had a lot of clients consider, should we just clear these off and make pasture and get cows? I said, well, by the time you get cow market's pretty good right now. By the time you spend the money to clear this pasture off and make pasture out of it, cow market might not be so good. Yeah. And so, you're hung again. And one of the things I kind of hate to see it, but I've had a lot of clients be approached by solar panel farms, these meta data centers that are going in.
Yeah.
They're clearing thousands of acres of trees to put these sites in, and those trees that'll be gone forever. I mean, if they put either one of those solar panels or the data centers, those trees are going to be gone. That ground is going to be gone forever. So I don't know what that's going to do to our markets. It's going to be less trees out there that we have to move into products. So
it is something I've not quite understood, to change forest land to solar farms. And from what I've read, I mean, to have those, you kill everything. It affects not just the forest and lack of trees. It affects the wildlife. It affects a lot of things.
Well, it changes the ecosystem, and that's as foresters, one of the things we do is manage ecosystems, and we have to look at the production of wood, the wildlife aspect, watershed, and recreation. We have to take all of those into consider when we do our management. And if you put in a 2,000 acre solar panel farm, you change the wildlife ecosystem, you change the watershed ecosystem, you change the recreational ecosystem, you change everything. Yeah. And what is going to happen to that ground? I don't know what happens under a solar panel farm. If there's stuff that can leak out of them, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how they control the grass underneath them. If they do it with goats and sheep or herbicides. But that ground is going to be changed. Mother Nature's pretty good at recovering, but in the foreseeable future, that ground's going to be changed as far as productivity to grow anything on it. So I don't know. We're in a state of flux. Yeah. I mean, it's changing, and how people look at, And when these data centers come to buy your land to put a data center in or anything, it's big money. And you look at it and you say, my gosh, I'd never make that kind of money growing trees. I'm looking at the family. This is generational money, so I take it. And farmland and timberland is out of the picture. I've spent my whole career in trees, in wildlife, and I hate to see some of these changes coming in, but I hope that that our markets will improve, and we've got a tremendous natural resource out there. And there's I've heard Buck speak at meetings, and I've heard read reports and all the new technology that's coming out, for using wood, and it's promising. It looks really good.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm thinking, let's get it going, because I got wood right now that needs to be harvested, thinned, moved, something done with it.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be, 5, 10, 15 years before these other plants come on, we're still going to be struggling. We're hung. We don't know, what we can do with it.
Yeah. Your alma mater is constructing a research and development center, I think.
Correct.
And hopefully through those efforts and other efforts of entrepreneurial folks, markets will expand a little bit. We'll find new products, and really, that's what helps more.
Well, it's over the years
products.
we have the industry has developed new uses for wood. The laminated beams, the Boise plant right north of Alexandria. They take wood that is not traditional 2x4s, I guess, or 2x10s or 2x12s, but they take parts of wood and glue it together and form these beams that are stronger. And that's great. They're coming up with different concepts to use wood in different ways. And hopefully they can come up with some in a few years that'll be beneficial to us, but I wish they would hurry up.
Well, and really that's
I'm not that smart. I don't know how to operate in those areas, but I'm hopeful.
I think the industry really looks to the innovation of folks, and really their desire to use a renewable natural resource for more things, because we've proven that we can grow trees in Louisiana.
We're good at it.
Yeah,
we're good at it.
Let's get more folks to utilize that, and in the long run, it's going to help keep the forests healthier, and it's going to help landowners who do have forests really keep a good ecosystem hopefully for generations to come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tim Holland works for Mudd and Holland Consulting Foresters out of Shreveport. Writes an article for us every once in a while for Forests and People for Forestry 101. We hope you've learned some things. And Tim, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And thanks to the LFA. I really enjoyed my last 2 years serving as the LFA president and all of the ramifications thereof. It was a blast. I had a great time doing it.
We appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Mind of the Forest. This episode was sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office or find them online at firstsouthland.com. Of course, we are always looking for topics that might be of interest to our audience, so if you have a topic suggestion, please send it to me via email at jzeringue@laforestry.com. That's jzeringue@laforestry.com. If you have any questions about being a Mind of the Forest sponsor, we have 14 shows each year, and we invite you to inquire about the possibility of being a sponsor. Drop me an email at that same address, jzeringue@laforestry.com. Don't forget to check out the show notes for the contact information for us and for the guest we have in this episode. Also, you can subscribe to Mind of the Forest by clicking on the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. And be sure to tap that notification button as well. That way, you'll know when we drop a new episode every month. Thank you for doing that. We really, really do appreciate that. And remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're minding the forest for you.